And today we're going to be talking about work-life balance, specifically as a real estate agent, but also as a business owner. We actually got a special guest today, along with me and Matt, Jesse Dale. Jesse, you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I moved to Indianapolis about 10 years ago. Opened our first Anytime Fitness in 2009. Consequently opened another Anytime about a year later. I promote, along with my wife Erica, 2 drug-free bodybuilding shows here in the city. And we own and operate a CrossFit gym and nutrition business.
So you're staying plenty busy then, I'm guessing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you on today and really just get your take, as a business owner, as a fitness enthusiast, it's really just on work-life balance and how important that really is. So kind of what's your general take on work-life balance with as busy as you are?
So I look at the value of an hour versus the value of a dollar. And whenever I'm confronted, say, with a business scenario, those are the 2 things that I have to take into account, because the value of the hour would be my family time, time to see kids growing up, time with my wife. My parents definitely aren't getting any younger. So I have to weigh that and the importance of that. And that has a lot of value, of course, with the marketplace value of earning an income, growing businesses, and so forth. And what I look at is if I take too much away from the personal end and I'm not necessarily whole there, it's going to be very tough for me to bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm into the marketplace. So I don't look at, say, time off as a bad thing, or when I value the hour, I don't look at that necessarily as taking away from the business. I look at it as just like we go through a rejuvenation cycle in our sleep. I look at that as my rejuvenation, so that when I'm in the business and the marketplace, I can attack even harder and go even harder. Because if I'm 50% in the marketplace because my home life is horrible, it doesn't make any sense. So hopefully that perspective makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like by you focusing on those things away from work, you're actually able to come in and be 100% when you're working on your business.
Sure. Yep.
Awesome. Now, do you prioritize your life, your life happenings compared to your business happenings? Do you have a certain order that you place a value on, or is it all pretty equal?
Yeah, no, there absolutely is, and there's definitely sacrifices both ways. In the business or in the marketplace, I try not to sell my time. And what I mean by that is time is definitely finite, so we don't have an infinite amount of time. So in business world, I look at, well, can I train and develop and create maybe a career opportunity, even though I might make less money in the short term, to free up my time so that I can work on other business ventures, or have that time for home life, or so on and so forth. And that's very tough to do, because when you're hiring someone or developing someone to, in essence, take or free up your time, there's obviously a financial sacrifice on that. So it has to be done strategically and smart, and there has to be a long-term, payoff for that. But that would probably be one of the biggest strategies that I implemented.
Awesome. Now, Matt, kind of now from the perspective of being a real estate agent, or even as both of us being managing brokers, how do you manage that work-life balance on the real estate side of things?
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's 2 main aspects. Obviously, you've got your personal life, and then you have your business life. So in your personal life, you've got relationships with, obviously, if you're married, you have a spouse. So you've got a relationship with your spouse, and you also have a relationship with your kids. If you have kids, you've got relationships with your friends at minimum. If you only have friends, you're still going to have a relationship with someone. So for me, it's all about, just like Jesse said, you've got to nurture those relationships no differently than in the real estate world. You've got to nurture relationships with clients and business owners and your employees, if you're a managing broker, or if you're managing people, and your boss. So all of those things have to be nurtured. And I think what real estate agents have the tendency to do, just like any other business owner has a tendency to do, is get so focused on their business that they let those other relationships kind of get hurt. So I think for me, I operate more on a schedule. So if I can schedule my personal time to have with my family and schedule those, and it sounds really, cavemanish, if you would, to say I have to schedule a time with my family. But it's so important for me to do that because I know how I operate, and everybody's different. You've definitely got to find what works for you. But for me, if I don't schedule it, it doesn't generally get done. So what do? I put time on my schedule with my family, and that's what helps me kind of get to that work-life balance. And piggybacking off of what Jesse said, it's about your time. I mean, there's a finite amount, so you definitely want to plan that time, and you also have to have personal time too. That's another thing that people need is time to rejuvenate. Like Jesse said, you've got to have that time to yourself, and everybody's different. Some people need more of it, some people need less of it. For me, I need more of it. So I try to have some time where I can just sit and think, meditate, or whatever it is. But yeah, I think I would like to know from Jesse too, from a personal standpoint. I mean, there should be time for yourself. How important is working out? That's something I feel like a lot of people avoid, because if they do make time, it's usually for their family, and then they kind of avoid making time for themselves. And I used to be a personal trainer. Jesse here, I know I haven't said this, but Jesse hired me as a personal trainer. I was one of my first jobs when I was 19 years old, and so it was awesome. It was an awesome experience, and I got to learn the value of taking care of yourself. So Jesse, I'd like to actually hear kind of the importance of fitness and making time for yourself as far as that goes.
Sure. And I think to piggyback off a good point that you made too, when your home life is in balance and people are happy there, they're only going to encourage you in the marketplace. And how powerful of a business leader are you going to be when your wife is saying, hey, get out there. Hey, did you get that deal? How is that deal going? As opposed to saying, well, are you going to be home late again? There's a big dynamic there that I think that we miss out on. And it's the same way with working out. When you're working out and you're feeling good about yourself, you're going to go to business meetings. You're going to, with higher confidence, you're going to look people in the eye better because you're happy with yourself. So happy home life, happy with yourself, you're going to be almost unstoppable in the marketplace because you're not walking around with insecurities and, is my wife going to leave me because I'm never home or whatnot. So I think that balance is very, very important. I don't think that we all need to go out and necessarily be, competitive bodybuilders or things of that nature, but 45 minutes 3 times a week to invest in yourself, I think is going to give you the energy, the musculature, the confidence that you're going to need, that you can then take those out into the marketplace and do some good.
Awesome advice, man. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm curious to actually hear from our audience. How many of you guys are actually spending time on yourself? Whether that it could be exercise, maybe it's silence, maybe it's doing affirmations, maybe it could be any kind of anything. But just curious, drop a yes or a no in the comments if you're actually spending time on yourself weekly to make sure that you're prepped and rejuvenated to actually make sure you're doing 100% on your business. So Jesse, kind of rolling over, and we know you just talked about confidence with exercise. It kind of spills over into positive attitude as well. So what's your thoughts on positive attitude, both in work, at work with your clients, and then also at home with your wife and your kids, and making sure it carries over everywhere?
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely a area that I've invested a lot of time, research, and energy into as far as that positive mindset. And I used to think or be concerned that, hey, if you're real positive, whenever you're out home or the marketplace, that people are going to think, well, hey, you're being fake. No one's positive all the time. And that's absolutely right. But I kind of look at it as the power of choices. When you wake up in the morning, whether you got 5 hours of sleep or 5 minutes of sleep, you're going to have a choice. How am I going to attack this day? I could definitely have a negative outtake on the day, or I could have a positive outlook on the day. And just like brushing your teeth, you need to make that choice to say that today I'm going to attack this day and I'm going to have a positive mind frame. I see a lot of times that people that don't exemplify a positive attitude, they like to play the victim or blame others. And that's very easy to do, very easy for me to do or anyone else to do. But when you blame your circumstances and start pointing fingers, what are you doing is you're taking power away from yourself. Okay, if I say, hey, I'm in a financial situation because of this, and this, I'm now powerless. I'm in captivity. Okay, or I call it the captivity of negativity. I know it's cheesy, but I think it's funny. Whereas if I say, well, you know what? I chose to go out on the weekends. I chose to buy a car that maybe I couldn't 100% afford. Now I'm taking control. I'm owning those decisions. And psychologically speaking, it's a lot easier to be positive when you have that power. So even if, whether it's with a customer or even at home, I found that if you're 90% right, own the 10%, and it sounds counterintuitive because you want to think, well, I'm 90% right in this situation. Own the 10%, and that will actually make you a lot more powerful than just blame, well, you know, you're 100% or you're 90% wrong. Own that 10%, and now you kind of regain and take charge and power back into your life.
That's great. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I love that, owning that 10%. You know, like you said, you may be entitled to that 90%, but if you own that 10%, that can make a world of a difference in your life on a day-to-day basis. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Matt, what about, you know, again, touching back on the realtor perspective of things now, you know, how can we make sure we're keeping a positive attitude when we have maybe deals are falling through, or, you know, a buyer or seller that's maybe being a little bit more difficult than normal, or just an unresponsive agent that you're working with, it might be, you know, how do you stay positive in those situations?
Absolutely, man. Just like in the fitness world, in the real estate world, you're going to be hit with people that are just negative. I mean, you're going to deal with some negative clients. You're going to deal with some negative realtors. You're going to deal with negative people in general. Maybe they're a loan officer, maybe it's a title company. So also you're going to deal with a lot of rejection. So it's super easy to take all of those things very personal as a realtor, and then say, you know what, I'm just gonna blame them, just like Jesse said. I'm gonna blame them and be mad at them and blame them for your unhappiness, when you should be focusing on, okay, I understand that there's negative people, but I don't have to be that person, and I can actually shed some positivity. So I think it's so important for realtors to focus on making sure that they're being positive. You know, I think the biggest thing that bothers me about the real estate industry, when you're dealing with realtors, and I haven't said this yet, so don't be a mediocre broker. When you're dealing with another realtor, don't blame them. Don't treat them like your enemy. Treat them like a teammate. You're both trying to get to the same goal. Both people want to sell that house. The listing agent wants to sell it and the buying agent wants to sell it, and both of them have clients that want to sell that house. So if one client happens to put in an offer that your client doesn't think is very good, you can still put a positive spin on that and say, you know what? Yes, it's not that good, but we did get an offer. Let's try to work through this, instead of, you know, getting the client mad and then turning around and being mad at the agent that submitted that offer, because legally we have to submit whatever offer our client wants to submit. So we don't, it's not our choice. We're on the same team. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of realtors need to, you know, if you have a realtor that's starting to get on your nerves, just say, look, guys, we're on the same team. We're both trying to get to the same goal of selling this house. What do we need to do? And let's try to make it work. So it's not always going to work. You're still going to lose deals. You're still going to deal with negative people. But if you just take those miniature approaches, little miniature things that you can do to change the situation and maybe spin it on its head and turn it into a positive situation, I think that's really all that we need to do as realtors, to just have a nicer, happier life in general, but also just have a nice positive experience more frequently. Because another thing I want to drive home too is, when realtors have negative experiences with each other, it makes us all look bad, because then we're telling our clients the negative experience most of the time. And so then the clients are thinking, wow, that realtor's bad, which then they try to put all realtors into that same category. So it's better for us to just all work well together, be nice to each other, and be positive. And it's amazing how one negative person can ruin a situation, but it's also amazing how one positive person can change the dynamic of a situation too.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead, Jesse. You want to say something?
Yeah, no, on that, I think I tend to be a people pleaser. I want everyone to be happy. I think that you can have 100% penetration on happiness. And obviously I know that might be a little overly optimistic, but what has helped me a lot on the positivity route is 99% of the negative noise is made from 3% of the negative. So you ever know, like a negative person, that 3%, they will make 99% of the negative noise. So instead of focusing on such a minor, small, tiny, minuscule part of your business, focus on the 97%. And then another thing that's helped me out a lot is I would take it personal. If I had a customer coming in and they were disgruntled and I've had people swear at me, and this is the great thing about being married to a psychologist or someone with a psychology background, is almost 100% of the time they're upset with something going on within themselves, or they're actually upset with decisions that they've made and they're projecting on you. And that has helped me out immensely. And I started to really kind of look into some of those 3% people that are making all this negative noise, and they don't have a lot to be positive about, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. So that realization has helped me out a lot, that this person, they don't mean what they're saying to me. They're just really mad about themselves and don't have the coping mechanism. So unfortunately, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing that I happen to be their coping mechanism for the day, but it helped me a lot in not taking their comments or their negativity personally. And I think that's key in maintaining a positive outlook, is not taking things personally.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those things too that you have to prep your mind to know that ahead of time. You're not just going to walk into a situation and know, unless you prep your mind correctly, you're not going to recognize that that they're trying to do that. Matt, you want to go ahead and take a second to introduce our sponsors, and then we'll take a second to wrap up.
Yeah, our sponsors for today is Indianapolis Homes Realty and Greenwood Homes Realty. As always, we got more leads than we can handle. So if you don't have enough business, contact us. We'll help you out. We'll help you grow your business. We're growing like crazy. We just opened up another office. So let us know. And thanks for watching. And I think Aaron's going to close us out here.
Yeah, before I wrap this up, I want to get one good solid piece of advice that people watching right now can take away. And if they feel like they're struggling with work-life balance, Jesse, what's your one thing? And then Matt, what would be your one thing that we can walk away and do today to start increasing that work-life balance?
I would say just believe in your choices and value the hour just as much as you value the dollar. And I think good things will happen.
Awesome. Matt?
Yeah, I would say keeping a positive attitude, and one thing just to add a little comedy to this, Zig Ziglar said there's really only like 5 negative people in the world. they just happen to move around a lot. So just try to understand, like Jesse said, there's only like 3% of the people out there that are really negative, and there's really only like 3% of bad things going on with you. It's a small percentage. So don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive. And I know that's cliche, but you can do it, and it definitely will make you more positive if you do that.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, thank you very much for hopping on the show today. We appreciate your time. I know you're super busy and you're trying to keep your work-life balance as well. So thank you for hopping in. Guys, if you want to like us on Facebook, we're also on YouTube. Give us a share, drop comments in there, and we'll try to dig through those and get through them as fast as we can. We're live every other Wednesday at 1:15, and we hope you guys have a great Memorial weekend. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye.